Welcome to the REI Rookies Podcast, the Real Estate Investing Rookies Podcast, episode number 58, where you follow Jack and Josh on their journey towards financial freedom using the power of real estate. I'm Jack Haas, and Josh is recovering from his band's performance last night, and we have a special guest on this morning. His name is Chris Prefontaine. Did I pronounce that right?
You did, certainly.
And then he has over 26 years of experience, including 18 years of a builder, realtor, broker, owner, investor. You got quite the list there, Chris. Can you kind of give a little more of a background on your...
Yeah, certainly. Thanks, Jack, and thanks for having me on. So that was kind of, I'm going to date myself, but that stuff you mentioned was, 90s up until probably the end of the 90s. I sold off my brokerage to a Coldwell Banker in 2000, actually. And then I started coaching realtors at the time throughout U.S. and Canada. And then jumping into my own investments, 2000 to 2005, being things like raise the roof projects, condo conversions, things like that. And then the lovely debacle came in 08. That caused us to do some serious pivoting to what we are today, which is I'm with my son, Nick, my son-in-law, Zach, and my daughter, Kayla. We buy and sell anywhere between 4 and 10 homes a month, and we do all that with on terms. No bank loans, no cash, and we learned the hard way, but we don't do it anymore.
Sure. Can you let's jump into the concept of terms. Josh and I have been doing that more and more, actually. We just actually picked up a condo this week, purchased on terms, making payments to the owner, and off we ran. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, so we buy it three ways, all of our homes, and we buy them either owner financing, and I know there's a lot of ways to do it, but for us, it's usually the ones that are debt-free, and we'll give them their price or premium, and we'll pay monthly principal only on all of them. So it's a huge pay down, and it's also a huge hedge, as the balance comes down. We also buy them subject to. Those aren't as prevalent because those really, so for us, for the last 5 years have been, I'm in trouble, I got to leave, here's my house, but that's not the norm. And the other way, most of our properties, like 65, 70% are lease purchase, where we do make the payment directly to the bank. The loan stays in the seller's name, and then we put a rent-to-own tenant buyer in these. That's how we exit all our properties, actually.
Sure. How do you find those people who have that amount of equity in their house?
Okay, so when we have our virtual assistants calling, they call for sale by owners and expired listings primarily.
Sure.
So we get the mix of those three different types of deals automatically. However, we do and we can target, obviously, free and clear with what we call those simple yellow letters that a lot of people use. And we target out of state and we target free and clear. And that's, there's plenty of them out there. There's a whole bunch. I think it's like 30-something% now in the U.S. still, debt-free.
Sure.
Pretty cool.
You just said that you target out of state. What states do you typically play in? And I know you're in, is it Massachusetts?
I'm talking to you from Newport, Rhode Island.
Okay.
We're all from Massachusetts. And then, so we do business in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut, primarily, a little bit in New Hampshire. And then we've got what we call associates around the country. We've got about 26 different associates. So they're scattered about in different states, and we coach and do deals with them.
Sure. So how does that conversation go when you get somebody on the call? Do you send somebody in person regarding locking up this terms type of deal?
Yeah, it used to be me. My son-in-law, Zach, has replaced me. So he'll go on anywhere from 3 to 6 or 8 appointments per week. He'll put on a contract, usually 1 to 4 of those per week. And we usually go in person, Jack. I mean, there's people that say you never have to go, but we would lose a lot of deals just from a credibility standpoint.
No, we've just definitely found that to be here. We're up in the Fargo, North Dakota area. And,
oh, wow.
And it's that personal touch. I mean, you really have to have that relationship built to, it's almost part of the terms is them liking you.
Well, yeah, you're asking them to, in these cases, I'm going to leave the mortgage in your name, or, you're asking them to do something out of the ordinary. And if they like you and trust you and you've got some credibility, and I think Better Business Bureau and things like that are super important. I tell my students that.
Sure. Yeah. Well, see, you've been helping quite a few students. How do you get somebody from doing this as a side hustle to becoming a full-time investor?
That's really a good question. It's really at the very beginning of their kind of game plan. I call it a business game plan. I dig deep into their why, because if that's their goal, all it's a matter of is scaling, like we did, right? I just tell people what we did. It's nothing. It's not brain science. It's do what we did. If their goal is, hey, I like my job, I just want to get this extra deal every now and then. Like, I've got a guy in Florida who runs a great business already, but he loves, like, every other month popping one of these deals. Great. That's his game plan. But if it's full time, we can structure that. Yeah.
Sure. So what is the game plan there? Do you have do you hand them over a strategy guide and these are your instructions, or do you bring them in and they shadow you for a while? How do you set that up?
A little of both. So as an associate, they get a 2-day office visit here, which is pretty intense. So they'll be with me, then they'll be with each one of the family members that I mentioned. So they'll see it in action. And then day 2, they go on the road with Zach and they actually visit homes, anywhere from 3 to 8 appointments that one day. It's a long day. Sure. And the night in between, we'll do that business game plan where we say, okay, look, based on our averages, here's how many properties you need to be calling or looking at or visiting, and here's how many contracts you need to be taken to get to your goal you're telling me you want. And is this doable for you? Great. And then we just execute and make sure we hold them accountable if they want that.
So how do you set up when they go back to their environment? How do you set up and encourage them to prioritize, and what do you have them prioritize?
Okay, so the main thing when they're new is what? Lead generation, right? You got nothing without that. It all dies.
Right.
So we have a report they send us every Monday morning that says how many dials they did, how many property information sheets they filled out, how many appointments they went on, how many contracts they got. So we're keeping tabs weekly. We're also on a little private community on Slack that helps everybody kind of self-accountable.
Sure.
And then we do a weekly calls with them. When they're doing deals, it's actually a lot more than weekly, but it's at least weekly calls.
Right. So how, we talk about leveraging other people's, through terms, or leveraging other people's money for acquisition all the time. But I'm really curious because Josh and I are in a situation right now where we're starting to leverage other people's time, whether that's through a staff or just our building out our network. How do you find out what's the best way to approach leveraging other people's time like that?
I found a really cool thing. You guys would like this. I was listening to one of the podcasts. I think it was Dan Locke's. It doesn't matter. One of the guests mentioned this company, Get Leverage. And I started using them, Jack. I've got about 12 projects with them right now. So this company does pretty much, as they say, anything legal. It's not like a VA company, you're outsourcing out of the country. It's here, it's higher end, and they take on any project I can think of that my staff kind of just feels like we're overwhelmed. We can't take on anything else. As far as internally with our team, I think an assistant is always the next step. So you're maxing yourself out, then you need a personal assistant. Mm-hmm. I also think the right training, or mentors, and I'm not saying that for me because my personality doesn't fit everyone. It's whoever is in your niche and you can relate to, just mimic their system. Just make sure they're doing it and mimic their system. Like I replace me with my son-in-law, right? Now he wants to replace himself with someone so he can coach more. It's very doable.
That's something you bring up, and we've brought it up a few times too, is the concept that to become an expert in anything, you need to put in, what was it? They say 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
Like and we joke that you can either put in the 10,000 hours or follow somebody who's already put in the 10,000 hours. So that's pretty much I think it's huge. Bent the wheel.
Yeah, I think it's huge what you said. Look, you and I didn't come up with the terms deals, right? I mean, that's right. Decades before we were born. The only thing we've both done differently is said, all right, well, here's a system. It's working for us, and now let's scale it. That's all. It's been around. And so the biggest challenge I see in the industry, and you must see it, is there are too many people that they're not doing deals. They're just selling stuff,
Yeah.
I have no desire to do that. I just want to go and do deals and help you do deals,
Yeah, we have yet another one of those companies that you referred to coming through Fargo here this weekend. And
yeah.
And what I always find interesting is that Josh and I also host the local real estate investing group here in town. And we always see a small surgence of new people who are getting into it, and they're all fired up. And they typically then either don't come the next time, or they've just gotten enough information to get into trouble.
Yeah, that's scary because you can, we create deals. I tell people right now our actual average, and some people lower and higher depending on their marketplace, but we're around 75 grand all 3 paydays per deal. We create 3 paydays per deal. Well, man, you can lose that if you're not trained properly.
Right.
I've been there, unfortunately, so I know you can get crushed if you're not following the right mentor or system or the combination of the both.
What are the most common things or pitfalls that you run into when you're working with somebody new?
Well, okay. So when I'm working with students, it's just them saying, here's my goal. And then them executing. Too many people say, here's my goal. And I know you told me A, B, C, D, but I'll kind of do half of A and a little bit of C and expect this. So it's managing expectations really. And there's just so many mistakes in the field that are easy to safeguard against if you're being trained. That's all.
Right. So you mentioned earlier the pitfalls of 2008. I am hearing rumblings in the market right now that we might see something again here in the near future. What are your thoughts on that?
Someone asked me yesterday on a radio, I said, if I knew that, I'd be in Cayman Islands right now chilling out, But I don't know. Who knows with the political scene? Who knows what's going to happen? Here's what I do know. When it slows down again, it's a great time if you've set up properly. It's a phenomenal time. And if it doesn't slow down right away, it's a phenomenal time. And when you're buying on terms and you have the right deals set up as well as the right forms, quite frankly, and agreements, you're in good shape. Will it be a little more challenging? Maybe, but you're in good shape.
Sure. So if you could recommend some, first recommendation off the top of your head, when somebody's getting into real estate investing the first time, what do you think they need to start with?
I always go back to a mentor, a coach. This radio show yesterday said, if I gave you $1,000 and you didn't know anything, what would you do? I said, I'd call a mentor and say, can I give you half? And can you just help me get started? Like, don't reinvent, just a mentor or a coach. And again, whatever your niche is, there's mentors in every niche.
Yeah. No, we've had some experience with that as well, and we can't say enough. We've talked time and time again. You either end up paying for it with lost opportunities, screwing up, what have you. It's always well worth any kind of time and financial obligation. You can either ramp up quickly and pay it and get it over with now, or you end up paying it somewhere along the way.
I said recently, a guy asked me, say, hey, can you give me a testimonial, one of my mentors? And I said, yeah, I can look at what I've done with you. This wasn't even directly real estate. I can look at what I've done with you and equate it to a lot of money. And I've done that with a few mentors. So I will promise you, no matter who you go learn from, you should be able to equate that to dollars within 6 to 12 months. No question about it. If they're doing deals, that's why I keep using the word mentor versus just a coach. Right. Mentor is someone that did it. They understand it.
Yeah, that's another thing too. We see everything as a return on investment.
Yeah.
When we do any kind of mentorship, it's all about the ROI. What am I going to get out of it in the end? And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people don't start there.
I agree 1,000,000%. And also they're afraid. Like, I don't know if I should add this person. I don't know if I should take on this project or take on this mentor. When I said I had 12 projects going with that company Leverage, I know if I gave them this, it's in short order, it's going to return me a much, much bigger number. Or I wouldn't do it. And so you just got to get real comfortable and confident with that.
So let's go through, we kind of do a couple rapid fire things here.
Sure.
Could you tell me about your worst deal?
Well, in 2008, there was too many of them to think of, but I'll just give you one. So it was just taking on a building with the buy and hold mentality back then. This would have been 2005 to 2008. Mm-hmm. And then letting it be over leveraged or getting it into over leveraged. And then I did a condo conversion in back right around then. We had 6 units. We sold 2 of them for $170. Overnight, when the market caved, we couldn't sell them for $50,000.
Oh, wow.
not to save our life. So that took me 2-3 years to work out of. And again, that was because I was on personally and I mismanaged it and it was over leveraged. So lessons learned that you don't have to learn.
Right. Tell me about your best deal.
Man, the owner financing deals, Jack, are cool right now. We're closing on as of now, like tomorrow, Monday, and it's a waterfront, $965,000. It's a debt-free home. We're buying it we did break the rule, and we had to put down a small down payment by paying her closing fees. It's about $4,000.
Sure.
And it's monthly principal payments of $2,500 for 4 years. So the balloon on that thing's around 700 something grand come the tail end of it. And it's already today worth around just under 1.2. So, we'll Airbnb that for now, maybe not put a tenant buyer in it like we usually do. But the bottom line is we've got a lot of options. And I like to have 3 or 4 options and then you're safe. But there's a bunch like that. The owner financing deals are 6-figure deals. No question. So
when you say a tenant buyer, do you do some sort of contract for deed or land? Is that your exit on those?
In some states, no, because I don't, because it's just I can take the same amount of money in, create the same 3 paydays by just doing a rent to own and not giving up title or anything risky.
Sure.
So we put them through this is a big point, so it's worth bringing up. There's a lot of mentors out there that'll say, who cares if your tenant buyer gets financing, you just do it again. I don't think that's morally and ethically cool. I think if I put a tenant buyer in a home, they need to be pre-screened. I need to know if they're going to be mortgage ready and they're going to get cashed out. Now that's a win-win-win. And
Sure.
So that's what we do with our tenant buyers. We make sure there's a path.
Okay. Give me a couple of your favorite books. First of all, real estate.
Real estate. Sam Zell, I just finished his book, Am I Being Subtle Enough or Am I Too Subtle? I forget, but it's Sam Zell, one of the largest mobile home owners in the country in other real estate deals. That was a cool book.
Sure. And for mindset, what's your favorite book for that right now?
Oh, man. I just got done. Gosh, I'm going to draw a blank on the bad things. I can't think of the one I'm on right now. I'll give you another one. The famous Think and Grow Rich, I read at least once a year. I know it can be boring for some people, but if you talk mindset, I don't know of a better one. There's a bunch of them, but that's a cool book.
Yeah, we just had a mastermind or a book study around that up here not too long ago. So it's always a good book.
Oh, I just thought of it. I'll throw it out. The Hard Things About the Hard Things, Ben Horowitz.
Okay, cool.
Really cool book.
That's something I haven't had on the list yet, so I'll have to take a look at that one.
Really cool.
So, well, did you want to say anything to wrap up?
Look, I keep harping on the right training like you did. I'm happy to help, answer questions, whatever. We offer a free webinar, whatever your audience needs. I'm game. I'm here to help.
Sure. Where can they find you for that?
They can just go to smartrealestatecoach.com, and then our podcast is smartrealestatecoachpodcast.com. There's a free webinar there. You can contact me through the site and enjoy what you get out of that.
Yeah, you bet. And we will make sure to include any corresponding links in our show notes.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. And we will see you next time.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.